Hey guys, what's up? My name is Bri and welcome to my channel. So as you can tell by the title of this video, this is part 2 of my Breaking Into the Entertainment Industry series. This time I am talking about Orlando. My first video I talked all about New York and tips on how to break into that industry. So if you want to watch that, I will put the link above and you can watch that. But today I'm going to talk about Orlando, which is the city I'm currently situated in and the industry I'm currently performing in. So I've been in Orlando for a little over a year now after testing out the waters in New York and realizing that industry was just not the best suited for me, even though I did find a lot of success there. So now I'm in Orlando and I'm here to give you the tips and tricks I have used and am currently still using in order to continue breaking into the Orlando industry down here. Full disclaimer, everything I'm going to be saying is my own personal opinion or is something I have just noticed myself. This is by no means factual information given out by the companies that are hiring in the area. This is all stuff I've observed and tips that I currently use in my daily life. But let me first start off with saying that just because Orlando is not New York or LA or any big name city like that, it is still a very competitive location to break into. It's by no means like a walk in the park just because it's not New York or LA. It still comes with its challenges, but it is very different from those bigger markets like New York or LA. Some stuff I'm saying in this video will overlap with my previous video, but you will definitely see a lot of clear differences as well. So let's get started. Now I have my handy dandy notes here to keep me on track. My first point on how to break into the industry here in Orlando is to understand that connections are everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. Now I know I said this in my last video that connections are everything in New York, which connections are kind of just a big thing in the entertainment industry in general. But in Orlando, I think they're especially important just because in Orlando, there's not as many companies hiring at the time. You have a lot of really big name companies that are doing a lot of different auditions, but overall it's the same general companies you're going to be auditioning for time after time, and a lot of the same casting directors. And that being said, everyone knows each other. The casting teams all know each other, performers know each other, they have connections with people they've performed with, and you just kind of want to keep getting your name out there. And I always have found that, especially here, whenever you meet a fellow performer, the first thing they are going to ask you is, what shows have you done? Or where do you currently work? Or what park do you work at? Stuff like that. Because they're going to want to try and connect you to a show they've seen or other people they know that do that show and connect you to people they know, things like that. I actually had an experience a couple months ago. I was doing a holiday audition for one of the big theme parks in the area, and it was being run by a third-party casting company that's very well known in Orlando. And the casting director had walked by as we're all waiting in line to give in our headshots and resumes and stuff like that, and he stops and is saying like hi to everyone in line, and he stops me and he goes, "Do I know you?" And I go, I didn't know this guy's name, so I was more like, no. But I was like, I don't know, and kind of just pointed my headshot like towards him so he could see my name. And he was like, "I do know you. Oh, good to see you," and continued walking. I was like, okay, I've literally only auditioned for this company literally one time before in a virtual audition, and I honestly didn't even know the guy's name when he walked by, but obviously he knew me from somewhere or recognized my name, whether that's from knowing me from other casting directors talking around or whatever. But yeah, people know each other, so you gotta make a good first impression and make those connections every single day. My second tip is you need to figure out how you can stand out from people that have been here for years upon years and have done these shows time after time again. So a lot of things in Orlando, the shows are running constantly for years at a time or come back every year, especially seasonal things. So you're gonna have people that have been here for years or decades and they've auditioned for these companies time after time again, know those connections, and they have those connections with those casting directors either on a professional level or sometimes even on a personal level. So they feel very confident coming into these rooms and essentially re-auditioning for roles they've done for 5 years now. So what you need to do coming in as a newbie to the Orlando industry is come in guns blazing, ready to show them everything you've got, putting in 110% of effort and performance value in order to kind of like, in my opinion, like catch the casting director's eye as a fresh face and like new talent, something they haven't seen before. Catch those seasoned performers when they start to get really comfortable. So what I mean by that is if you're coming into a room, an audition room where you feel very comfortable because you know the people behind the table and you think you kind of have the role in the bag because you've done for 5 years, you're gonna get comfortable and maybe you're not gonna put in 110% effort. You're still gonna do a good job, but you feel more confident in what they already know about you, so maybe you're not gonna be the same type of auditioner that you were when you first arrived. So that's where coming in as a new person and coming in guns blazing and really fighting for that role and fighting to be kept and called back is gonna really catch the attention of the casting directors and in my opinion give you a lot of success. And that's something I've been doing since being down here for a year. Granted, the majority of my time has been during a global pandemic, so auditions have been a lot more sparse than they normally would be. But even in those auditions, I've been able to do virtually or through self-tapes or even in person. Now Orlando's getting back to doing in-person auditions. I've been able to stand out with those casting directors and get called back and still start to see the success and the connections being made that way. Now my third tip is going to be to acquire as many skills as you can to build up your resume and make yourself more marketable as a performer. So here in Orlando, there's a lot of really niche markets and niche types of performers here. So whether that's stilt walking or stage combat or tumbling or drumming, there's all these different types of performers that a lot of the big theme parks utilize and different third-party companies, different events companies utilize, but they're not going to be as common with everyone coming in knowing those skills. So if you can hone in on those skills and put those on your resume so you're a much more well-rounded performer, that makes yourself much more marketable to those big theme parks or those big corporations that can utilize you in different aspects and put you in a lot of different shows all at once. So that's something I've noticed, that almost no one here is a one-trick pony where they are only a singer or only a dancer. A lot of people like to gain a lot of those skills doing different workshops or master classes through local companies that are offering them and can really build their resume while they're here. A lot of people, maybe they go from doing character work then into puppetry and dancing and doing parades and stage combat. All that type of stuff is very marketable and can really give you a lot of success and make companies want to hire you. And then tip number 4 is going to be understanding that this industry in Orlando really revolves around the theme parks. It's just true. Like, there's plenty of regional theaters around here and they have really great performances, but even they still kind of revolve around the theme parks with rehearsal schedules and performances and all that type of stuff. It's very common for people to have their quote-unquote like 9-to-5 job is performing at Disney or Universal or SeaWorld or something during the day, doing parades or meet and greets or different show times which are normally during the day, like a 9-to-5 type of thing. And then if you're cast in a regional theater that's local here, those rehearsals are a lot of times going to be at night and the performances are usually at night anyway too. So a lot of them just kind of revolve around the theme parks and knowing that majority of everyone has or is currently working at a theme park during the day at some point. So that's really good to understand that even if you want to be just more so doing stage theater and doing plays and musicals and stuff like that, that's great and you can audition for a lot of that here, but I wouldn't count out the theme parks because they do have a lot of opportunities for employment, and especially working your way up, you can make a good, decent living doing that here full time when not in a global pandemic where a lot of people are getting laid off. So my 5th tip for breaking into the industry here in Orlando is to utilize Facebook and a lot of not so common sites to find your auditions. I would definitely say the auditions in Orlando are a lot harder to find and they're not going to be as in your face as they are in New York and on one of like 2 common sites. So you're really going to have to figure out what those sites are and save them. Follow those companies on Facebook where they post their audition notices to be able to submit and keep those dates on your calendar as soon as they're posted. So Facebook is a really common place for the regional theaters to post their auditions. A lot of them use Auditions Manager to sign up and create your time slot and submit your headshot, resume, all that type of stuff. So I would just find a list of the local regional theaters in Orlando, like them all on Facebook, and you'll probably be getting the notifications and be seeing the auditions that they're posting pretty frequently. But a lot of the major theme parks and other third-party companies utilize their own sites normally. So Disney has DisneyAuditions.com, Universal has Universal Orlando Auditions.com. SeaWorld is part of SeaWorld's Parks and Entertainment, which also encompasses Busch Gardens, but SeaWorld does not usually use that website. Busch Gardens does, but SeaWorld has their own like audition website. I think it's like careers.seaworldparks.com or something like that. And then Legoland is through Merlin Entertainment, so that is through Merlin's website where you can find those auditions. So it's just not as common to find stuff all in one place. Sometimes you'll see some of those companies utilize Playbill, which is nice, so I always check there as well for regional theater or for the parks. But normally I have all of the specific parks websites or different audition sites saved on my computer, so I could just click through them and check the auditions every single day and just see if anything's changed. But yeah, a lot of those sites I've kind of learned throughout me being here, seeing other people post about them or asking other performers, say, hey, where did you find that audition? And then I can save that for next time to make sure to keep that site on my radar. So that's just something I've learned and it's come in handy to find auditions that aren't as easily accessible, because if they're not as easily accessible, they're probably not going to have as many people there, and it's going to give you a better shot of getting cast. Tip number 6 is to keep the New York mindset even if you're in Orlando. Now what that means, if you're someone like me who came from the New York audition scene and is now in Orlando, you know that New York is very much a competitive grind type of an audition process. Everyone is super competitive and is out for blood to try and get that role or get cast or whatever they're trying to do. So I like to try and keep that mindset, as harsh as it may sound. It does help in kind of keeping me on track and making sure my reels are always updated, my headshots still look like me, I'm submitting for everything I can, I'm writing all my auditions down, I'm not backing out of auditions because I don't feel like getting up that day, stuff like that. I'm filming things on time, all that type of stuff. Not saying people in Orlando don't do that, like they are not committed like that. I'm just saying Orlando is a much nicer community. It's not as harsh as New York is. So I think it's really easy to kind of just sit back and take in the view of Orlando and just enjoy the life you have, instead of remembering what your purpose was for coming down here, which is to be a performer full time and actively pursuing that at all times. So I definitely think you don't get complacent in your survival job. Always look to strive for those goals as a performer, whether that's to work at one of the major parks, whether that's to go equity, whatever your goal might be, keep pushing towards it and don't forget why you came down here. Last tip number 7 is that I've kind of figured out a lot of opportunities, especially at the major theme parks, come from working your way up through those companies or through those departments more so per se. So what I mean is there is no shame in starting at the bottom and working your way up in entertainment. So maybe that means you start in as character performer roles and doing meet and greets and stuff like that, and then you work your way up into doing puppeteering and then dancing and in parades and doing main stage shows, equity, all that stuff. A lot of performers have started there at the bottom and worked their way up with the company through the years, and I think that's how the company kind of sees your passion for what you do and your commitment to the company, and that's why they're going to give you some of those more desired roles, because there are a lot of very specific types of shows and skills needed for shows on property of the different major theme parks that they will not have auditions for. It's just not something they're gonna look for at an audition. It's something you kind of need to earn, and you need to work your way up to get into those roles. So yeah, just know your goals. If you have a certain show you've always wanted to do, find people that are doing those roles and ask them, how did you get that? How did you get that show? And I bet you they probably will say they had to work their way up into it. They did not just get it straight out of an audition, especially if it's a very like specific type of role in like a more of a niche market. But yeah, that's kind of all my tips. That is 7 tips to break into the entertainment industry here in Orlando. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on all my latest content. You can also follow me on Instagram at Graf100 to stay up to date on my content there. And I will see you guys next time. So bye!